All about Groundhog Day for kids. What is Groundhog Day? Groundhog Day is an American and Canadian holiday. It is celebrated every year on February 2nd. This is when a groundhog pops out of their burrow and predicts what the weather will be like for the next 6 weeks. You're probably wondering how a groundhog can predict the weather. Well, on the morning of February 2nd, people watch to see if a groundhog creates a shadow. You may know that shadows are caused by something blocking a light source, like the sun. A groundhog can only see their shadow on a sunny day. If it is cloudy or rainy and the sun is not shining, then a shadow will not be created. Some people think that the groundhog will be scared of his shadow and run back inside of his burrow. This means that there will be 6 more weeks of winter. If the groundhog does not see their shadow, then this means that there will be warmer spring-like weather for the next 6 weeks. Spring will still begin on the same day each year, March 21st. But people like to have fun predicting what the weather will be like leading up to spring because it can be so different each year. If you think about the weather in February and March, you may notice that some days it can be super cold, and some days are pretty warm and feel like spring. So if the groundhog sees its shadow, that means wintry cold weather. And if a groundhog does not see its shadow, that means we will have warmer spring-like weather. The groundhog prediction is not always correct, but people have fun with this silly holiday anyway. Why do we celebrate on February 2nd? This day is kind of the halfway point between winter and spring. Winter begins on December 21st, and spring begins on March 21st. February 2nd was celebrated as a German holiday called Candlemas. People believed that clear weather on this day would mean wintry weather for the next 6 weeks too. German settlers moved to Pennsylvania and brought this tradition with them. Eventually, this tradition, like many others, changed a bit over time. In 1886, a local Pennsylvania newspaper in the town of Punxsutawney declared February 2nd as Groundhog Day and named the local groundhog as Punxsutawney Phil. Since then, the day and tradition has spread throughout the United States and even the world. Groundhog Day has become a cultural phenomenon. Every year, millions of people watch the famous Pennsylvania groundhog. There is a group of people called the Inner Circle who wear top hats and speak in Pennsylvania Dutch. They meet at Gobbler's Knob and make an announcement if Phil saw his shadow. Punxsutawney Phil isn't the only famous groundhog. There's Staten Island Chuck from New York, Woody the Woodchuck from Michigan, Jimmy the Groundhog from Wisconsin, Woodstock Willie from Illinois, and in Alaska, they use a marmot to decide the weather. What do you think? If you have time, make a prediction before the holiday. And the big question is, can groundhogs really predict the weather?